Welcome to Civil Services Achievers Point. Today we are discussing the Assam Tribune of 14th August 2020. At Civil Services Achievers Point, we have various courses. Students can enroll in them to get a sure shot rank in the upcoming examination. The Assam Tribune analysis is based on the new pattern of APSC. However, it will also be helpful for the other state level government examinations. These shall be the various newspaper articles which we will discuss today. We will also discuss an important editorial in our today's Assam Tribune analysis. So students, let us begin. The first topic which we are discussing today is under General Studies 3 paper, Economic Development. The topic is Prime Minister unveils new tax reforms. In a major overhaul of tax administration, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday unveiled faceless tax assessment and appeals to reduce the scope for corruption and overreach by officials, and said a taxpayer's charter is being implemented. This is a very important development, a taxpayer's charter. In our last class, we also discussed this point that a taxpayer's charter is being developed to ensure a fair, free and transparent tax environment. Further, it says, launching the transparent taxation, honoring the honest platform through video conferencing, he said the taxpayer base at just 1.5 crore in India is very low. So this is a concern for India, that the taxpayer base is very low. And further, the Prime Minister urged those who owe taxes to come forward and honestly pay their dues and contribute to the nation building. The taxpayers charter and faceless assessment are the next phases of direct tax reforms aimed at easing compliance and rewarding honest taxpayers as the government looks to rebuild the pandemic hit economy. So this has been a reform mission by government regarding the direct taxes, which is aimed at easing compliance of taxes and rewarding honest taxpayers. While faceless assessment that does not require the taxpayer to visit any office or meet any official, and taxpayer charters will be implemented from Thursday, the faceless appeal will come into force from September 25th. The tax system may be turning faceless, but it promises fairness and fearlessness for taxpayers, further Modi said. Modi said, till now, the tax office in the city of residence was handling the scrutiny, appeal, and notices of an individual taxpayer. Now, after the reforms, a central computer will pick up tax returns for scrutiny based on risk parameters and mismatches, and then will allot them randomly to a team of officers in any city. The scrutiny by these officers will be reviewed by officers at another randomly selected location. So there will be different layers of scrutiny. Notices, if any, will be sent only by centralized computer system, and taxpayer can respond to them electronically without the requirement of visiting a tax office or meeting any official. This, he said, will end the era of Jaan Pehchan, that is the acquaintance to get scrutiny or notices settled. That is, it minimizes the frequently visiting of the offices, and also to get acquaintance with the officials, which will minimize the scope of corruption and increase the accountability and transparency of the office. And students will further recall that Modi government's slogan was minimum government, maximum governance. So this is overall part of that initiative. The Prime Minister said taxpayers' charter provides for fair, courteous and reasonable treatment while treating taxpayers as honest. It expects taxpayers to be honest and compliant and pay taxes in time. While the number of people filing income tax returns has increased by about 2.5 crore in the past few years, actual taxpayers at just 1.5 crore out of a population of 130 crore is very, very less. So this is an important fact which can be used in any case, in any answer regarding tax reforms, that our actual taxpayers at just 1.5 crore out of population of 130 crore, which is a very small number. Those who are capable must voluntarily come forward and pay their dues and contribute to the development of the nation. Modi further said that economic reforms in the past were done under compulsion or pressure, which may not have yielded desired results. But for us now, reforms means reforms based on policy, reforms that are holistic and not piecemeal, and one reform forming the base for another. He further said reform is a continuous process. So these are some of the important points under the new tax reforms. Students, please make a note of it and quote them in your mains answers. Also, if any question is asked on prelims, so that you can remember them after repeated revision, so please revise them periodically. Now coming to our next topic, it's a very important topic with respect to our GS5 paper of APSC, that is the General Studies on Assam Disaster Management topic. The news article is Flood Early Warning System for Guwahati is launched. In the first of its kind initiative in the Northeast, the National Disaster Management Authority NDMA today launched the Urban Flood Early Warning System FEWS to predict floods in state capital Guwahati. As you know, Guwahati faces urban floods every year, so there is a new urban flood early warning system to predict floods in Guwahati. The system has been developed by the Energy and Resources Institute. This is important. In prelims, it may be asked which organization or institute has developed this system. In association with Assam State Disaster Management Authority. Launched at an online event, the fully automated web-based tool will help local authorities to alert about flash floods and or heavy rainfall, which in turn will help them to take timely and appropriate measures in the event of a natural disaster befalling the city. So this, the system, that is the Urban Flood Early Warning System, is a fully automated web-based tool which will help local authorities to alert about flash floods and or heavy rainfall, which in turn will help to take appropriate measures in time in the event of a natural disaster happening in the city. It is the first web-based graphical user interface portal for urban flood forecasting system in the entire Northeast region. The fully automated system, which uses advanced hydrological models to provide warning with a lead time of 72 hours, is replicable across India. That is, the lead time is 72 hours. That is, the forecast can be provided before 72 hours of the actual disaster. Developed under TERI's project supported by the NDMA in collaboration with the India Meteorological Department, IMD, and ASDMA, the tool can be replicated to predict urban floods in any part of the country. The FEWS, that is the system pilot project, was undertaken on an experimental basis to enhance resilience for urban floods in association with the Guwahati Municipal Corporation, Northeastern Space Application Center, and TERI School of Advanced Studies. Pankaj Chakrabarti, that is who is the state project coordinator, ASDMA, told that the initiative was in line with the Prime Minister's recent statement during a meeting with the Chief Minister of 6 states, Assam, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Kerala, where he had highlighted the need for development of local level flood warning systems, stating that together with science communication, the results of these assessments can enhance the resilience of flood-prone cities and geographies in the country. Further, it is said that the expectations of the civil society on the disaster management apparatus was increasing every day, and despite many advances in science and technology, a lot of work remained to be done. Along with early warning system, we need techno-legal measures on ground, such as protection of water bodies, solid water waste management, and cleaning of drainage channels ahead of the monsoon. So along with early warning system of urban floods, we also need a combination of technological and legal measures, that is techno-legal measures on ground, such as protection of water bodies, solid waste management, and cleaning of drainage channels ahead of the monsoon. The DGM Hydrology of the IMD department, New Delhi, stressed on building flood forecasting capabilities at the local level. He further said that we have categorized the country into 27,000 watersheds, and based on it, we issue flood warnings with increased incidence of urban flooding. Our main focus is to develop local city-specific forecasting systems for accurate advisory. Currently, there are 25 Doppler weather radars in India to detect or predict likelihood of high intensity rainfall events. IMD will install 20 such radars in hill districts in the eastern and western Himalayas in the next 2 years. So there are many initiatives taken to detect the high intensity rainfall areas. Further, the system uses IMD's weather research forecast model results of precipitation to simulate the hydrodynamic model for flood prediction and sends out early warning. The system is developed with an inbuilt urban drainage to predict flood at street level accuracy. The flood level and hotspot areas can be visualized over Google Maps, which will help in identifying flood affected areas, disaster preparedness, and management of urban flooding related issues such as traffic disruption, providing relief and recovery, and managing stormwater. Now coming to our next topic, Manipur remembers freedom fighters on Patriots Day. So this is an important topic in our General Studies 1 paper, Indian History. Also this topic is important from our General Studies 5, the history of Assam and the Northeast, because many times APSC also tends to ask a few cultural and historically relevant questions from Northeast also. So the news article is Manipur observed the 129th Patriots Day to pay tribute to the freedom fighters from the state. The day is observed on August 13th. That is, the August 13th is celebrated as Patriots Day in Manipur, and students kindly note this date because in APSC a prelims in MCQ based question in prelims is expected. Also we have covered this topic as a MCQ in our daily MCQs. So students, please go through our daily MCQs and revise them frequently. So the news article says the day is observed on August 13 to commemorate the 1891 Anglo-Manipur War, in which scores of people sacrificed their lives to safeguard the independence of the land. The Chief Minister of Manipur said that the day reminds us of the supreme sacrifice made by our forefathers for freedom and sovereignty of our motherland, and this sense of patriotism should not be forgotten by the present generation for strength and unity. So coming to the next topic, the retail inflation rises to 6.93% in July. General Studies 3, Economic Development. So this topic, retail inflation rises to 6.93% in July. This topic we will study under the General Studies 3 paper, topic Economic Development. Retail inflation rose to 6.93% in July, mainly driven by rising prices of food items like vegetables, pulses, meat, and fish. Government data showed on Thursday. The inflation based on the Consumer Price Index, that is the CPI, stood at 3.15% in July 2019. That is on last year, the CPI was 3.15%. Retail inflation for June has been revised upwards to 6.23% from the earlier estimate of 6.09%. And these inflation, that is the consumer price index, is released by the National Statistical Office. So this is a very important information. UPSC and APSC may ask in preliminary by which organization it is released. The Reserve Bank of India has been mandated by the government to keep the CPI based inflation at 4% plus minus 2%. The retail inflation has remained above the 4% mark since October 2019. Last week, the Reserve Bank had kept interest rates on hold to contain elevated inflation. The central bank mainly factors in retail inflation while arriving at its bi-monthly monetary policy. So this inflation, based on the inflation rates or inflation percentages, the RBI, the central bank, decides on its bi-monthly monetary policy. So in its monetary policy, either it contract policy or it expansion policy. If further, if the central bank, that is the RBI, feels the necessity to increase the money supply, it then expansionary monetary policy, and if it feels to reduce the money supply, then it decides on contractory monetary policy. So these topics will be covered under our economic classes. So students, if you find difficulty, please do not worry. Under economic classes, this will be explained in simple terms. As per the NSO data, inflation in rural India was 7.04%, while in urban areas it was 6.84% during July, translating into a combined rate of price rise of 6.93%. The rate of price rise in meat and fish segment was 18.81% in July over the same month last year. Similarly, the annual inflation was 12.41% in oils and fats and 11.29% in vegetables. The annual inflation in the food basket was 9.62%, the data showed. In the fuel and light segment, the CPI based inflation stood at 2.8%. As the various COVID-19 related restrictions were gradually lifted and non-essential activities started resuming operations, availability of price data has also improved. The NSO collected prices from 1054, that is 95% urban markets, and 1089, that is 92% villages during the month of July to 2020. The price data are usually collected from selected 1,114 urban markets and selected 1,181 villages through personal visits by field staff of the field operations divisions of NSO, and the NSO operates under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So this is a very important information, that under which ministry the NSO comes, and the ministry is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So students, please make a note of it and revise it periodically. Commenting on the data, the principal economist said that the CPI inflation hardened to a sharper than anticipated level, led by core items that are still adjusting to the new demand supply dynamics, even as the increase in food inflation was along expected lines. So as we know, whenever there is a high demand, and if there is a less supply, then the inflation or the food or the prices rises. So with the COVID-19 lockdown and the demand supply dynamics changing, there has been an increase in the food inflation, and it was along expected lines. As expected, the rising vegetable prices amidst heavy rainfall and the lockdowns contributed to the spike in food inflation. So it was anticipated that the food price will rise, and it will reflect in the food inflation in July 2020, which is expected to soften somewhat in the ongoing month. Further, the principal economist further opined that the stabilization of prices of crude oil and retail fuels in recent weeks would ease the incremental pressure on the CPI inflation in the ongoing month. The chief analytical officer of Acute Ratings and Research, said inflationary concerns may lead to a delay in further rate cuts and can raise the risks of stagflation. Now, further it is said that the inflationary concerns may lead to a delay in further rate cuts and it can raise the risk of stagflation. Stagflation is a economic condition in which it is a combination of stagnation and inflation. So stagflation is a very dangerous position to be. It is also expected to have an adverse impact on bond yields in the near term and may trigger the higher use of liquidity and yield management tools to optimize the cost of government's borrowings. So this prolonged inflation may impact may impact the bond market and it may trigger the higher use of liquidity. That is, the government borrowings may increase, and which will, government's borrowings will increase, and it might need to be better managed of the cost of the government borrowings. So whenever there is further it is mentioned that it is also expected to have an adverse impact on bond yields in the near term and may trigger the higher use of liquidity and yield maximum tools to optimize the cost of government's borrowings. Rahul Gupta, who is a head of research of currency at MK Global Financial Services, said that CPI remains above RBI's target range mainly due to uptick of food inflation. While the nationwide lockdown is easing, food inflation still remains a concern as regional lockdowns still persist. That is, the national lockdown is withdrawn by the government, by the central government, but at state levels and also at district levels, there are many lockdowns still persisting. Eventually, with better monsoon and further easing of lockdown, we can expect inflation to come under RBI's target range. But until the CPI hovers above 6%, RBI will remain hesitant on cutting repo rate. That is, if the inflation is too high, if the CPI is above 6%, RBI may not be willing to cut repo rate. Meanings, if repo rate is too low, then the money supply will increase. But since it is inflationary, so RBI may have to resort to contractory monetary policy. Nish Bhatt, who is the founder and CEO of Millwood Kane International, said high inflation despite lockdown and low fuel prices is a cause of worry. High inflation despite lockdown and low fuel prices is a cause of worry and may affect the central bank's ability to act on rates going forward. So many experts from diverse fields have caused their concerns on the CPI inflation rate. So now coming to the next topic, foundation laid for private rail coach factory. Now this is a very important topic and it might be asked in APSC prelims. The topic we will study under General Studies 3, Economic Development. Telangana's Industries Minister K.T. Ramarao on Thursday laid the foundation stone for Medha Rail Coach Factory at Kondakal near Hyderabad. Coming up over 100 acres, it will be India's largest private rail coach factory and will be capable of manufacturing coaches, locomotives, metro trains and monorail. Being set up by Medha Group with an investment of rupees 1,000 crore, the coach factory will have a production capacity of 500 coaches and 50 locomotives per year. Ramarao further said that the plant will also generate employment of 2,200, which would give a big push for the manufacturing sector. He further hoped that the first assembly unit of the plant would be ready in 15 months to cater to the future requirements of Telangana of not just metro and monorails, but also of high-speed trains. So this is a very important development. Students, please make a note of it. We will also discuss the important editorial, this topic dealing with homebound migrant laborers. As we know, due to lockdown, there are many aspects of the lockdown. Here in this article, the migration crisis or the refugee crisis condition is discussed, and this topic we will discuss under General Studies 1 paper, Indian Society, which is a part of the APSC new pattern syllabus. As you can see, salient features of Indian society, diversity of India. So this is a topic under our GS 1 paper. Now, the article says the lockdown imposed on March 25 to contain the spread of COVID-19 has made visible both the size and vulnerability of migrant laborers in urban areas of their destination. So the lockdown has imposed the vulnerable situation of our migrant laborers. COVID-19 threatened lives while the lockdown destroyed livelihoods following the loss of jobs of migrant laborers. So COVID-19 only threatened the lives because only, like, if the disease is if any person is infected with the COVID-19, then only that person is threatened. But the lockdown impacted everyone. The migration, whoever migrated, it impacted everyone. That is, it said that COVID-19 threatened lives while the lockdown destroyed livelihoods for many families, for many migrants, following the loss of jobs of migrant laborers who are mostly engaged in the informal sector. That has led to a massive exodus, that is a massive migration of migrant laborers to their home states. With no institutional arrangement for their travel back home, they have resorted to any means, including trudging long distance, undergoing huge financial costs and physical sufferings. There has been numerous reporting of their woes and sufferings bordering on a great human tragedy. Having witnessed these, several states have made transport arrangements to carry back migrant workers to their respective native places. And apart from various state governments, we have also come to know that Bollywood actor Sonu Sood has personally arranged for transport of many migrant workers to their respective home. The Economic Survey of 2016-17 has placed the size of interstate migration at about 9 million annually between 2011 and 2016, while the census 2011 has estimated the internal migrants, both inter and intra-states, at 139 million. So this is a very important data here. Students, please make a note of it and so that we can use them in examination. Migrants comprise 29% of the total workforce. Ravi Srivastava from Institute for Human Development, New Delhi, recent study has placed the size of short-term and long-term interstate migrants, both rural and urban, at 52 million for 2018. The central government's policy measures towards addressing the woes of the migrant workers who have returned to their home states largely rest on providing free food grains until November under the Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana and creating short-term employment opportunities under Manrega and Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan. Now these two are important schemes mentioned here. One is for the food security and one is the employment opportunity. The Prime Minister the Prime Minister has further proposed to set up a migration commission. Now this is a very, very important recommendation, and students, please make a note of it and try to include this point in your answers, because these small points would add value to your answers. The Prime Minister has further proposed to set up a migration commission that inter alia will map the skill sets of the migrant workers who could be provided appropriate employment opportunities closer to their villages following the expected investment in rural areas from the various initiatives under Atmanirbhar Bharat. So the Prime Minister has further proposed that there should be a migration commission set up, and there should be a mapping of the identification of the skill sets of the migrant workers, so that employment opportunities closer to their villages could be set up under the various investments initiatives under the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Witnessing large-scale reverse migration, home states have also initiated many measures to create livelihood opportunities for migrant workers, taking various steps such as skill mapping and introducing such schemes for providing employment opportunities, facilitating registration and setting up call centers to address the concerns of the migrant workers. States like UP and MP have proposed to set up a state-level migration commission to guarantee social security to migrant workers, to provide them employment and insurance coverage in their home states. So many states like the Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh have come up with many initiatives. Several home states have contemplated leveraging the MSME ecosystem by utilizing the skill set of the returned migrant workers and by bringing more investments into the states to absorb these migrant workers. Again, some states have proposed to regulate the interstate movement by way of registering the migrant workers in their respective home states and making it necessary for a formal request if any state requires workers from their states. So there has to be a formal registration for the movement of the migrant workers so that they can be tracked and proper infrastructure, social infrastructure can be provided. Some of the host states are seeing the void created by the exodus of migrant workers as an opportunity to create employment opportunities for local youth. Meaning, as many migrant workers have moved to their own states or to their home states, the places from where they have migrated, so there is created a vacancy or there is a void created by the migrant workers who have moved to their own states. So that vacancy which is created has created a employment opportunities for the local youths of that place. For example, the government of Maharashtra, the government and political parties of the states like Maharashtra have started pitching the Marathi Manush, that is the Marathi people, agenda for providing employment opportunities to local youths in industries. Towards this, Maharashtra is contemplating to make the registration of migrant workers mandatory. This is a very important point that states will now start the registration process of any migrant worker so that they can be traced, identified, and proper social infrastructure can be provided to them. States like Haryana have brought an ordinance which allows 74% for local youth in private jobs. And as we know, the recent committee report on the clause 6 of Assam Accord has also recommended 80% of the jobs in Assam for local youths or for the Assamese people. However, the fact remains that several host states usually rely on migrant workers to meet their workforce requirement. The fact is also that workers move to those states that provide more job opportunities. However, the central and state governments' initiatives such as above to restrict the interstate movement of workers need to be viewed in the following contexts. First, India is a federal state, federal system. Its advantage lies in a large unified economy that facilitates free movement of goods and factors of production. So the labor is a part of factors of production. Towards this, Article 19 of the Indian Constitution guarantees all citizens the right to reside and settle anywhere in India. Parliament has also passed the Interstate Migration Workmen Regulation and Conditions of Service Act 1979, especially to deal with malpractices associated with the recruitment and employment of workers who migrate across state boundaries. So here the author argues that India is a federal country, federal state, and its advantage lies in a large unified economy that facilitates free movement of goods and labors. So also our constitution guarantees, Article 19 specifically guarantees all citizens the right to reside and settle anywhere in India. Also there is an act by Parliament, Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation and Conditions of Service Act 1979 is also specifically there for the workers who migrate across state boundaries. That in practice, this act has been overwhelmingly ignored. So this act is not being properly used by the state governments. Second, which the author puts forward, is that despite the objective of promoting balanced regional development being pursued since the planning era, the regional disparity has greatly widened over the years. The poorest state of the republic accounts for less than one-third of the richest state's income. In such a situation such as this, workers of the lagging states move to the booming states which offer employment opportunities. Such movement is indeed growth and welfare augmenting. So the second point the author mentions is that there is a regional disparity. Kisuman state, Kisuman jaga, Kisuman region সোনকালে develop হৈ গৈছে, কিছুমান state আৰু region সোনকালে develop হ'ব পৰা নাই, as there is a disparity. So movement of migration, movement of migrants from poor states to rich states is a symbol of growth and welfare. It's a welfare augmenting, that is, it will lead to more welfare. Third, the author says the economic survey 2016-17 has noted large heterogeneity among the states in their demographic profile and evolution. There is a clear divide between peninsular India, West Bengal, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, and the hinterlands, that is Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Assam. That is, in India we have two kinds of states. One is the peninsular and one is the landlocked states. Peninsular India consists of the coastal states like West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat. So these are the peninsular India, and the hinterland states are, the landlocked states are Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Assam, whole of Northeast. So there is a divide. And the landlocked states, the author gives a very good point that the landlocked, that is the hinterland states, would remain relatively young and dynamic, characterized by a rising working age population for coming years, while peninsular India is soon to be aging. This heterogeneity could in principle make it possible for India to enjoy demographic dividend for a longer period. Demographic dividend is a term which is frequently used in India and also by the United Nations, which suggests that India has a young workforce and the young workforce will contribute in our GDP and our welfare of the nation. To maintain the economic system and provide services to the aging population, aging states would require a young workforce that could come from hinterland states. Such interstate migration could balance the demand supply of labor. That is, the places where there is a younger population, they will provide the labor, the supply of labor, and the places where there is a aging population, however there are more industries because of easy infrastructure of ports and all in the peninsular India, so there will be a balance of demand supply of labor. Finally, the urbanization in India, which has increased from 27.81% in 2001 to 31.16% in 2011. So this is again a very important data. Students, please make a note of it and you may use this in your examination. The urbanization increased from 27.81% in 2001 to 31.16% in 2011 is basically the outcome of population explosion and poverty induced migration. Largest migrants are from the poorer states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, followed by Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir and West Bengal. The major host states are Delhi, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala. In China, such interstate migration has led to fast and robust growth. Overall, all the central and state governments' efforts are commendable as short-term measures. In the longer run, they are not consistent with one nation, one labor market, nor with optimal growth and welfare in the present state of regional development and demographic transition pattern. In a unified economy like India, laborers should be able to move freely from states that lack job opportunities to those that offer jobs and better wages. In the process, migrant laborers gain individually and the economy gains collectively and functions more efficiently. What is important in the case of migrant labor is to focus on providing three things: decent working conditions at workplace, decent living conditions closer to workplace, and social security. So students, please make a note of it that migrant laborers are to be provided with three things as mentioned by the author, and these are very important points, good points: decent working conditions, decent living conditions closer to the workplace, and social security, that is various schemes of pension or various schemes of PF, various schemes of medical health benefits, etc. Some of the initiatives by the Indian government, such as to provide portable ration cards and access to the affordable housing to migrant workers, are the moves in the right direction. The proposed migration commission should be mandated to design a social security package covering healthcare, living conditions closer to workplace, etc., and unforeseen contingencies in addition to old age and eventuality of job loss. So the migration commission should decide on a social security package which will include the health packages, the living conditions, the old age related expenses, and eventuality of job loss. So there should be compensations, etc. The proposed labor codes, which aim at reforming the labor laws in the country and currently under discussions, should also address the above issues relating to migrant workers. So students, this is a very important editorial which we have discussed today. A sure short question is expected in the APSC and UPSC mains regarding the social in the GS General Studies 1 paper, Indian society, because the lockdown has impacted multiple people in multiple ways. So one angle of the impact is the impact on the migrant workforce. So, and a question is expected, and from here, from this editorial, relevant data may be quoted in the examination. So please make a note of it and revise it frequently. Now, in the next slide, we are discussing the Apne Desh Ko Jano initiative. So here, from here, any information may be caught by the APSC and asked in preliminary examination. Here today it is discussing the national flag sanctity. As per the law, the only material to be used for making flag is khadi. Only Khadi Development and Village Industries Commission has the right to manufacture the flag and allocate it to regional groups. So this is a very, very important point. Students, please make it a note that only the only material to be used is khadi, and the only department which is authorized to develop the national flag is Khadi Development and Village Industries Commission, and to the regional groups to which it authorizes. Flying a flag made of any other material is punishable under law with 3 years imprisonment and a fine. So students, please make a note of it, because if any question comes in prelims, then we can easily mark the correct answer. So students, with this we come to an end to our today's discussion. I hope this video has helped you understanding the various news articles of the Assam Tribune. At Civil Services Achievers Point, we have offline regular classes, we have online live classes, we have various free initiatives, and we also have mock interview sessions. We are very soon coming up with optional classes, ethics classes, and the CSAP classes, that is the GS2 paper of prelims APSC. For further details, please call the number at the below of the screen. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Telegram channel. So students, with this we end this session today. Thank you.